Jim Harbaugh may actually prefer to stay at Michigan on one condition. I'll tell you what that one condition is and whether it's likely. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I am Craig Sheeman. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. Good to see you and talk to you again. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. So, Harbaugh's conditional contract. We'll look into that. Plus, Purdue just pummeled Indiana in a big rivalry game in basketball. We'll have our power rankings as well for men's basketball at the end of the podcast. Hang on to the end for that. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe and help us out there and follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh is a complicated man. He loves being a Michigan man. And he has stated several times that he'd like to win a Super Bowl at the NFL. Both can be true, by the way. He's coming off of a national championship, and he's primed for a huge contract extension at Michigan. And there are sources that say that he would actually like to remain in Ann Arbor and continue to be their head coach on one condition. There are reports that Harbaugh would like immunity from job termination should these NCAA findings that are going on with these investigations come down hard on him. It says, hey, if I get nailed on something from the NCAA, I don't want to be fired for it. That's what's on the table right now, or at least that's what Jim Harbaugh is trying to put into the contract, according to reports. It's a big ask. There's no doubt about it. But so far, Michigan is all in. There have been reports of a 5-year deal. Then there were reports of a 10-year deal. They happen to be worth over $120 million. More recently, the report is of a 6-year deal worth $11.5 million per year. The different reports could be based on whether we're talking about semantics about whether it's actually a new contract entirely or whether we're just blending in the existing 3 years that remain on Jim Harbaugh's contract. Either way, this contract would make him the highest paid coach in college football, no matter what. So it is good to be Jim Harbaugh, but that might not be enough. Harbaugh wants protection if he stays. The NCAA is coming at him on multiple fronts. Let's review. First of all, Burgergate is still going on. The NCAA hates when I call it Burgergate. Of course, they feel Harbaugh was not truthful about a minor violation of visiting with recruits and buying them a hamburger during a non-visiting period during the COVID pandemic. All right. That in of itself, minor infraction, but the NCAA thinks that Harbaugh lied about it. That would be a major infraction. That's why Michigan decided to sit out the first 3 games of the season with Harbaugh, hoping that that would pacify the NCAA if anything became of this, or maybe it could be more. They could come down with more, and he'll have done 3 of the games already, self-serve. It could be complicated here coming up this year. All right, the other one, of course, is the Spygate investigation, where former assistant Connor Stallions operated an extensive and illegal on-site scouting plan, illegal by NCAA standards. And so far, the NCAA has publicly said Harbaugh was not involved. There's no evidence that Harbaugh was involved in that. So it begs a couple of questions here. And the first question that I have when I think about this, Harbaugh said he's done nothing wrong. So if he's done nothing wrong, what is he worried about? And why would he need job protection against the NCAA? It's a fair question. But to be equally fair, on the other side of the argument, There are many, and Harbaugh may be included, who think that the NCAA is very unhappy about Harbaugh is relentless in being outspoken in the favor of student athletes getting paid more of the NCAA share of the pie. NCAA doesn't like that at all. Some feel that they will stop at nothing to bury Harbaugh. That's why they keep coming after him from all directions. So, is this a big ask for Harbaugh to ask of the university? Protection against the NCAA? Yes. Does Harbaugh have the right to ask for it? Yes. He's got more leverage than anybody I've ever seen ever in anything. He just went 15-0. He won a national championship. He won the Big Ten for 3 straight years. He made the college football playoff 3 straight years. And by the way, this was a 15-0 season, which he sat out 2 3-game suspensions. And the team was still on cruise control. If anybody has leverage enough to ask for something like this, it's Harbaugh. So far, the school president and administration, they've been completely supportive of Harbaugh throughout all of his trials and tribulations here. And they've even backed up the Brinks truck. I mean, with all of these, whatever this offer is, it's going to be huge. It's going to be absolutely huge. They want to do everything to keep. The school president has been particularly supportive of Harbaugh throughout all this. This final condition, though, of job immunity may be a lot to ask, and it'll be interesting to see which way the school goes here. There's also another thing I want to bring up, just kind of have it out there on the record for now, okay? The relationship between Harbaugh and athletic director Ward Manuel. I can't figure it out. I can't. I read a lot of stuff. I look into a lot of stuff. Publicly, Manuel has said all the right things about keeping Harbaugh and supporting Harbaugh. But I also read a lot of stuff out there that many think that Manuel may be a little bit tired of Harbaugh and maybe dragging his feet to get this deal done. Nothing confirmed. Just throwing it out there. I've always been honest with you and told you that I always use my gut feeling on these things, where if I see smoke, I think there's fire, and it usually leads to something. Maybe something is out there. Maybe it's not. We'll find out due time. We'll see how all this plays out before I make an official comment on it, but I'd like to throw it out there. In the meantime, Harbaugh is very busy creating even more leverage by talking to NFL teams, or at least one team, and talking to the Chargers this week. So we'll see what's real when all this comes together here shortly. Always interested in what you think about it. Hit me up on Twitter at TalkBig10, number 10, or X, as you like to call it. Also, you can find me on the website, TalkBig10, number 10.com. And, of course, we always look forward to your comments on YouTube. Some of you kind of rough on me this week. The one I did yesterday about Ryan Day and the new athletic director at Ohio State. By the way, the speculation, they went and hired Bjork from Texas A&M. We'll have more on that in just a moment. So we'll share all that with you. We'd love to know what you think, though. Hit me up on all that. We're going to talk a little Big Ten basketball, too. Spent a lot of time talking football. Got to get into more basketball. I'm a big basketball fan myself. And Purdue going into Bloomington. And Zach Edey just continues to be Zach Edey. He is incredible. We'll talk about that, plus our power rankings for the Big Ten men's basketball power rankings coming up in just a minute, right here on Locked On Big Ten. You know, at the start of a new year, like we have here, every small business owner is asking themselves the same question. What's the one move I can make that'll take my business to the next level in 2024? Well, LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success all depends on the team that you surround yourself with. Whether you're in sports and you need to build a team that a coach needs, or whether you're running an office and you need people all working together like a team, LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success depends on that and who you surround yourself with. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has created the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. Look, a lot of us, myself included, have been in positions where we've had to hire people. It's not easy. Sometimes people don't look forward to having to do that because they have their own jobs to do. LinkedIn Jobs makes it a lot easier for you. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. It has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many qualified candidates. It's Easy. In fact, that's so easy that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. It's why businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn also knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats, they might not have time and the resources to hire somebody. But thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, it is quick, and it is easy at LinkedIn Jobs. I want to thank each and every one of you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day. We are growing every day. It's unbelievable. Thank you very much. I'm very humbled by it. Especially you everydayers out there that join us. And if you're new, share us. Tell a friend about us. Maybe a Big Ten alum in your family that doesn't know we're out here. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe. That's what helps us the best. On YouTube, you can share and follow and like Locked On Big Ten, no matter where you get this podcast. Locked On Big Ten, your team every day, or as I like to say, your teams every day, since we cover them all. All right, so it's official, right? Ohio State announced that they have tabbed Texas A&M's Ross Bjork as the next athletic director at the school. AD Gene Smith is retiring this summer, and the school also has a new president, Ted Carter. So there's a lot of stuff going on. So I thought it was pretty interesting. Yesterday, we put together a podcast, if indeed they had hired Bjork, and they're going to now. And we focused on this and what it might mean for Coach Ryan Day. Now, we're fair and we're level-headed in our opinion about this whole Day situation. We've all watched a lot of football and programs over the years. There's a little bit of writing on the wall here. This could go one of either way. But if you're one of our regular everydayers out there, I know you'll back me on this. You know that we are here at Locked On Big Ten very supportive of Ryan Day because he has won 90% of his games, and yet there's some unrealistic expectations over there in Columbus, Ohio, if you coach at Ohio State. And yet I get a ton of defensive comments from Ohio State fans. Not all of them. We got a lot of good Ohio State fans that check this podcast out, but a couple. Man, do you get defensive if I say anything could possibly happen to Ryan Day? Like I'm calling for it. I'm not calling for anybody to lose their job. Let's be real. Let's actually pay attention to some of the words I say here on this podcast before you go firing off mean comments. It's unbelievable. But the facts are undeniable, and opinions are just that, opinions. And that's what we share here together, back and forth. Basketball, big rivalry. Purdue, Indiana. Didn't go so well as far as if you like close down to the wire games that are rivals. Purdue went into Bloomington on Tuesday night, rolled in there, overpowered the Hoosiers in every way possible. IU had no answer for Zach Edey. And few teams do, by the way. He had 30 and 20 his previous game. But the Hoosiers got an instant foul trouble. Nobody could guard him. Poor defense, poor free throw shooting, poor shooting. Not a poor shooting. They were okay on the free throw shot. They didn't get that many chances at the free throw line. And the Boilermakers won 87-66. This game was 51-29 at the half. Indiana came out in the second half with a nice 13-2 run, and that just faded out. It was all Boilermakers the rest of the way. Back to Zach Edey, the 7'4" giant. Back-to-back 30-point games. He had 33 in this one, 14 rebounds, 11 of 12 from the line. You know, he said afterward he was upset. He didn't play very well. Are you serious? He was 11 of 23 from the field. He missed some shots. He was upset. Trey Galloway added 17 for the Hoosiers. You know, Zach Edey's an interesting scenario. He's been there forever. And Purdue, Matt Painter's done a nice job finding some bigs over the years. Guys well over 7 feet tall, and so is Zach Edey. You know, Zach, it was deemed after being the basketball player of the year in the country last year in the Big Ten, they wasn't good enough for the NBA because the NBA has moved on from the big man. You don't have a lot of 7-footers dominating the inside of the NBA. It's all a shooter's game. It's all a runner's game now. And so Zach Edey, you know, went to those little tryout camps to kind of gauge where he would go in the draft, and didn't look like he was going to get drafted. And, or at least not in the first 1.5 rounds or anything like that. So he said, I'm coming back to school. But now all of a sudden they're talking about him being a lottery pick in the draft. It's unusual because his numbers are kind of about the same as what they were last year, but he is in ultimate shape. He runs the floor so well. He's just moving better. And all of a sudden, the NBA saying, maybe we can use a 7'4" guy after all. So we'll see. Still got a whole bunch of season left ahead of him. Speaking of Zach Edey, the Los Angeles Athletic Club announced the John R. Wooden Award mid-season top 25 watch list. As you know, they announced the Wooden Award winner for the best player in college basketball at the end of the season after the NCAA tournament in April. And in the middle of the season, they put out a top 25 watch list, guys that they're honing in on. Edey's on that list. That's a no-brainer. Michigan State's Tyson Walker is on that as well. Speaking of Michigan State, Tom Izzo, 697 wins, on the verge of becoming the 10th active coach of Division I to record 700 career victories. Thursday's home game against Minnesota will mark Izzo's 500th career Big Ten game, making him the second coach in conference history to reach that mark, joining the late Bob Knight, who coached in 504 Big Ten games. Fun stat of the day, Big Ten very popular. More than 2.5 million fans have watched Big Ten basketball, including 1.6 million fans at the league's 14 home venues. 7 Big Ten teams rank in the top 20 in total attendance, including 5 in the top 10. Indiana leads the league in attendance at over 176,000 fans in 11 games. By the way, if you want to go to a game, you want to get some tickets, I've got some links for you on our website at talkbig1010.com. Hey, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is what it is called. It is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league, like Locked On Big Ten. It's on there. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Of course, after you subscribe here to Locked On Big Ten. All right. All right, we got our power rankings. We do that in the middle of the week, each and every week. Men's basketball right here. That's all coming up next right here on Locked On Big Ten. So the NFL regular season is a wrap. The first weekend of the playoffs is a wrap. We're moving on to the divisional series. You can be a part of it with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. I mean, it's exciting enough to watch them, but then it's even more exciting if you like some action on the games. I love it. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. And the app is very simple. It's easy to read. Got the point spreads, over-under totals, prop bets, parlays. It'll help you out with that. They've got some sections on there. They got same-game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explore tab if you just kind of want to do something, but you're not sure what. You want to get in on the action. Make a parlay at the Parlay Hub. They've organized multiple picks together into parlays for you. You find the best of most popular parlays. And as I give you a tip, again, I like unders with cold weather playoff games and defense, but I know some teams have there were a lot of blowouts this weekend. I'll tell you that. A lot of point spreads covered this past weekend. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. And I know we come to sports to kind of use it as an escape to get away from everything. And sometimes life is real serious, right? You got to be prepared for it. According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin right in the middle of the worst flu season we've had in over a decade. It can be very scary. It can be scary if you need medicine and you can't get it. It can be scarier if your kids need medicine and you can't get it. That's a pretty helpless feeling, right? Sometimes there are supply chain issues and that can keep you from the medicines that you need. Thankfully, you can be okay with Jase Medical. Jase Medical, that's J-A-S-E, Jase Medical. They have a Jase case. It's a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, sinusitis, skin infections, lots of stuff. And it's the stuff that can happen to any of us. And they send it to your door in a nice little Jace case like this. And medications are inside. Comes right to your door. It's very easy to get. Visit jacemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It'll be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to be prepared than today. So go to jacemedical.com and use the offer code LOCKED ON to get $20 off your first order. That's Jase Medical, Jase, jacemedical.com. Okay, let's take a look at our power rankings. Men's basketball in the Big Ten and see where your favorite team is. First of all, going to put Purdue at number 1. I mean, they're good. They're rolling. Had a couple of hiccups this year, but they look pretty dominating on Tuesday night at Assembly Hall against the Indiana Hoosiers. Zach Edey, best player in the country as far as I'm concerned. Purdue, number 1. Wisconsin at number 2. They beat Nebraska on Saturday. A little peek behind the curtain. They are currently playing Penn State right now as we are taping this podcast. If there's an upset here, we'll juggle this around. But right now, Wisconsin, number 2, going into the Tuesday night game, 5-0 in the Big Ten. Northwestern at number 3, since they lost to Wisconsin, had to bump them down. Illinois, a top 10 team in the country until recently. They lost to Purdue, then they lost at home to Maryland. So a bit of a hiccup here for the Fighting Illini. I still have them strong at number 4. I like how Nebraska has been playing, and then I bragged about them, and I've got them at number 5. Then they went and lost to Iowa rather handily last Friday, 94-76. So Nebraska may be trending downward at this point. I've got the Hoosiers there at number 6, although I don't know. I can't predict what the Hoosiers are going to do from one night to the next. And again, Purdue, a pretty solid dismantling. Iowa, which remember was kind of at the bottom of our poll at the beginning of the year, starting to win some games. Beat Minnesota on Monday. Nebraska last Friday, getting a couple of dubs. Maryland at number 8, got Minnesota at number 9, and the Penn State Nittany Lions right now rounding out our top 10. Michigan State at number 11. I told you about Tom, as you saw last weekend, Izzo's kid, the walk-on. He's like 5'8", scored his first bucket in 5 years. That was exciting. Michigan at 12 to beat Ohio State. The Fab Five reunited for the first time ever in the same building, or for the first time ever at a home basketball game at Michigan. They beat Ohio State 73-65. They're the Buckeyes at number 13, and Rutgers rounding out the bottom at number 14. That is a look at our power rankings. All right. Do that every Wednesday. Got to put a women's poll in there at some point, I would think, here in the near future. But anyway, let me know what you think about that. Many ways to interact with me, of course, as always. And you could do it at X, Twitter, Talk Big Ten number 10. Also on the website, talkbig10number10.com, and on YouTube as well. Be sure to subscribe. Do me a favor. I ask you, subscribe. Thank you if you have already. And follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and to get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Don't forget, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, Locked On Sports Today. It's here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league. Again, it's great. It just runs every half hour. There's a new one on. They insert some quick inserts as well with all the latest things going on, some quick interviews. But by and large, half-hour programs like Locked On Big Ten here, other Locked On conferences, Locked On teams, Locked On NFL. It's all there, just on a constant roll, 24/7. Never been done like that before on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today, 24/7. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to that first ever 24/7 sports streaming channel. All right, so here we are in the middle of the week, kind of a big transition week. Got a couple things to keep track of. First of all, we'll continue to keep track of the Jim Harbaugh situation with the Chargers and the interview there. We'll see if anybody else gets an interview with him. We'll see if he's stringing this along to get any leverage because he wants to come back to Michigan. I honestly don't know right now what he wants to do. I've been pretty certain that he was leaning NFL, and these reports this week that Harbaugh he's interested in staying in Ann Arbor if he can get some certain protections. It sounds to me like Jim Harbaugh feels like he just wants some love, man. I mean, it's in addition to the money. He wants everybody to say, you're great, we love you, and we want you here. The school president, I think, has been very upfront all along, supporting Harbaugh. I think Harbaugh would love it if the AD felt the same way. And now can he get the board of trustees and everybody that approves his contract to also say, and oh, by the way, if we run into a little snafu with the NCAA and more suspension time coming, you won't fire me. You'll continue to back me. At this point, I'm like, why not? Why not? You've backed him every bit of the way through the 2 suspensions. You've backed your football coach. You might as well continue to do it. We'll also keep an eye on everything else going on, not only with that, the interviews with the NFL team. I don't know how he's got to time all this out. He's got a good agent that can kind of get these interviews spaced out, keep the dialogue going with Michigan. But at some point, these NFL teams are going to want an immediate decision. Now, one thing that Harbaugh has in his favor is he can be, whether it's, the Chargers, I don't know if the Raiders get an interview, whatever the case may be, all the other candidates that they're all lining up, a lot of them are still coaching playoff games, still not available for interviews. So this process could drag on just a little bit, probably about another week or so. Then these teams are going to want to start naming head coaches. Then, in the meantime, Harbaugh's going back and forth with Michigan. As Michigan decide, hey, here's the money, here's the guarantee, here's the immunity. We're not going to fire you if anything bad happens with the NCAA. All that is going on behind the scenes nonstop. All right. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that. We will continue to keep an eye on any portal news, everything going on in football. And we're getting really into basketball season right now. It's really the end of January, beginning of February is when the Big Ten season really you get a good feel for who's going to do what, who's getting going, and it's all about them coming together in March and playing well in the postseason tournament. So we got a lot on our plate right now. We are very excited to be a part of the Big Ten here at Locked On Big Ten. So hope you enjoy it as well. Tell all your friends about it, and I can't wait to meet you again tomorrow. Thanks for your time. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten.